In this video I'm going to look at how we chart raw data in Excel, and rather than use some of the data we've been collecting, I'm going to look at the causes of death which are all listed in the town hall. If I show you what we're aiming for, you can see that what I've pulled out of the town hall is every single person who has died in the town and their cause of death. But you'll notice that nothing has been summarized. It hasn't been tallied up for you. So this is raw data. So the first thing when we're dealing with this in Excel is we have to tell it to count it up first, and then we tell it to plot it. So it's a slightly longer process. So to get the causes of death for your town, you can go to the hall and you might land on the office tab. There's also the births and the marriages, but we're interested in the causes of death. So you can select all of these, include your headers because we'll put them into the first row, and just scoot all the way down to the bottom. Depending on how big your town is, you could potentially have quite a lot there. Then you want to copy that and paste. I can start off on a fresh sheet and paste your data into Excel. Just give that a second. Nearly there. Okay. If you're not familiar with Excel, there's a couple of different ways it can paste. It can paste with all the formatting. That's the keep the source formatting, it's where it came from. And you'll see that it all looks a little bit different, and actually it will retain all the links. So if you want to keep an active link to each person and you retain the formatting, you'll see when you hover over it that that link is still there. So you can click and go straight to that person. Usually I either remove the formatting or match the destination formatting, just because I don't want all that extra information, but it can depend on what you're doing. So I'll just give it a second to take all that formatting out. And let's just expand these out so we can see them. I usually make the header row a little bit different so I can see it clearly. So I'll just make that a heading 1. Now what I'm interested in for this example is just all these causes of death, because it's a little bit hard to tell looking at this what the leading cause of death in this town is. It actually looks like it might be skin cancer, but that's perhaps just because the first few showing up are skin cancer. Hard to know it unless we actually tabulate these. So I'm going to select that column. Now if we go to the Insert tab, you'll see we've got the option to create tables and we've got the option to create graphs. Now if the data has already been summarized, as you would have seen in the previous videos, you can just go straight to the chart because all the adding up has been done for you. If we need Excel to count up all the different options and how many occur, then we need to do what's called a pivot table. So you can do a pivot table first and then do a chart on that, or you can get it to do the table and the chart at the same time. I don't know why they're called pivot tables, but that's what they're called. So pivot chart and pivot table, that's the option I'm going to choose, and then it will show us exactly what it's doing. Now I've already got the data selected. If you didn't have the data selected, you click on this little arrow here at the end, and then that lets you click on that column. If you click from the letter down where it shows that arrow, that will select the whole column for you, rather than if you click here then you have to drag it down. So I recommend you use that option to select the whole column. Once you've got your data selected, just click back into that, and then you can choose whether the pivot table will go into a new worksheet or into the existing one. And often it's easier to put it into a new worksheet so that you've got a fresh page to work with. So I'm just going to click OK. Now, one of the off-putting things with Excel is that once you tell it to do something, it doesn't appear to work straight out. You actually have to then do a little bit more fiddling around. So once you get this far, you then have to tick that you actually do want it to use the cause of death. Let's tick that. And you can see now that it's created all the row labels for what it's going to add up, but it still hasn't charted anything. So after telling it that yes, we want to use this for the x-axis, you'll see that it's popped up down on the bottom right hand corner under axis. We also have to tell it that we want it to count up those values. That capital Greek sigma actually means sum, not count, but it gives you the options to count in here as well. So to tell it to count it up, you need to click on cause and drag it in. And there it says count of cause. Now if yours says sum of cause, I don't think it will actually, just because these are all written out here. I think it will only count them. It's sometimes with some data it will sum them, as in add them up rather than counting them up, and you have to go into there to the value field settings and just say that you definitely want it to count it, not to sum it or to average it or do something else. So now we've got our graph. That's pretty much what we want. We don't really need this blank thing over on the side, so let's just go into the row labels and uncheck that. Okay, and we don't really need this legend here because we're not plotting two different types of deaths. We're not plotting the males against the females or needing two colours, so we can just delete that. Probably want to put a meaningful title in here. Causes of death in Shinobi. And then of course we can, with these bars, just play around with the formatting if we want to. So if you've got a colour scheme going on for your poster, you could change that to match. I'll just make that green. Oh no, that made one green. Let's okay, now you can see that it's highlighting all of them. It should change all of them. I don't like that green. I've got a paler green. I'll put a border on. And perhaps I want them a little bit wider, so I might scale that down a bit. So that's nice and easy to read now. And now that it's added them all up, we can actually see that heart attack seems to have caused the most deaths. Where is skin cancer? So skin cancer's not even, it's probably the top three. So it's the third most common cause of death. So we've got heart attack, then stroke. Now these V1s, V2s, V3s, they stand for different viruses like measles or mumps or chickenpox. So if you were doing some kind of biomedical investigation, you might have a look at the symptoms that each one of these people presented with before they died and try and work out what each of these viruses are, but we're not interested in that for this course. So you might be interested in doing a graph like this for your poster, especially if it relates to any of the variables you're collecting, such as cholesterol or diet or exercise, to see how that relates to the causes of death in your town.